Hi there, and welcome to this video on how to use the CRISP Proactive Reporting module. My name is Simon Roberts, and I am the coordinator for the Community Injury Surveillance Project, the Adult Strand. So the purpose of this video, as I mentioned, is how to use the new Proactive platform to enter CRISP data. If you've been with the project in previous seasons, you'll notice this is a shift from our previous online platform to a new version, which we think is more robust and more user-friendly. If you're new to the project, then you haven't got anything to compare it to, so welcome to this platform. So without further ado, I've put the screen up that you should see when you log in. So this video does not tell you how to log in. We make the assumption that you've been able to do that successfully. If you do have any problems logging into the system, please do let us know. But regardless of whether you've been assigned as a company admin, which is the overall head of the Proactive module for your club, or a group admin where you oversee your team within the module, or whether you're a coach, you've been assigned a coach admin, you should still be able to see on this top platform, this top menu, an option for submit report. So that's the first thing you need to do is click on submit report, and that will take you to a screen that looks like this. You may see a screen that looks more like this with some more options above the CRISP reporting module. But the main thing is that you can see the CRISP reporting module as it is here. It might be at the bottom of your screen. So here we have the options for all you need for entering CRISP data. These top three buttons, player list, matches list, injuries list, is data that you have already entered and is in the system. We also have the user guide here, which opens a separate tab as a PDF, giving you more in-depth instructions equivalent to this video, but in writing. So the first thing that you need to do to start entering data is to start adding players to your list. And you do this by adding players. So on this left button, CRISP Add Player Consent. If we click on here, we go here to the window where we can see all the options to enter the detail for a single player. If you are administering this project on behalf of your team, then you want the players to complete this themselves. To do this, we have a Share This button. And this opens some options for you to share the link to this page via whatever means you like communicating with this team. So you can copy the link, and this might go into a team sharing software that you may use, or you may communicate via WhatsApp. But either way, you can copy the link through one of these share options. So when a player clicks on that link, they arrive at this page. It should take the player very little time at all. I'll run you through it. So I'll just put in a dummy player. A dummy email for my purposes. Date of birth. Just a tip on the date of birth. Click on this top left option to go backwards in the years, otherwise you'll be scrolling through every single month. So we can go back to 2002 here, so February 2nd will do. Player, he's a second row. Let's say 198, 100 kilos. These fields are not mandatory, so you do not have to put in a height, weight, or ethnic origin for the player, or they don't have to put it in themselves. They are optional. They do need to put a name and an email there. Once they've done that, they click yes, that they say they've consented, and then they add a signature. Just backtracking, I should have just drawn your attention to, they can click on a link here which opens up the full player information details about the project, and that's a part of our ethical consent, is that the players can access that and read it before consenting to the project. But once they have decided they want to take part and completed their details, they click yes, they add a signature, which they can add in there, and then submit the details. And for a single player, it's as simple as that. If we go back to via our submit report menu, that player will then appear in the players list. We can see there the player appears at the top. So this list will then contain all the players that have added their consent to be part of the project, and this list will build as the players do it themselves. So that's simply how to add the players, and the convenience there is that once the players receive the link, they populate that playlist themselves rather than the team admin having to input every single player. So that's something we recommend doing at the start of the season. But if a player does not add their consent at the start and they incur an injury, then you can ask it for the time of inputting the injury, and I'll show you that soon. So then throughout the season, then the process then is to add matches. So the next button is the add match. So if we click on that, users of the old platform will notice that all the data fields in this new proactive platform are the same. We've copied everything across. Obviously, the format looks slightly different at times, but essentially we're asking for the same information. So the match date. So if we go August 4th, opponents, your list of previous opponents will appear in the drop down. So I can just add them. The score for you. Score against, let's make it smaller. The venue, home, away. The type of match, league, friendly or cup. We'll say it's a league. In fact, it's a friendly at that time of season. Predominant weather conditions. We appreciate conditions can change over the course of the match, but this is just a subjective judgment on those predominant conditions. We've added now night conditions as well. So this is cloudy day. It was predominantly dry. The playing surface is particularly important because we like to differentiate between grass and artificial surfaces for the project. So let's say this is hard grass, and the playing surface was dry. Once those details are in, click Add Match, and the match is now saved. So adding a match, as you can see there, is a very simple process. And then if we go to the matches list, that match will appear in this list. Just something to note, when a match is being added, you cannot edit the details of that match afterwards. So it's quite important that all the details you know about that match are added at the time. It's not editable in that matches list afterwards. So throughout the season, every single match is entered, and that's regardless of whether there's an injury to report in that match or not. We need to know the number that the team have played for the purposes of using it as a denominator to calculate the number of injuries. And then next, obviously, the important part then is adding any injuries that occur over the course of the season. To add an injury, we just go to the crisp Add Injury button. And then we go through the process of just entering the details about that injury. So the injury date, go back to August 4th, just entered. All the players that have been added to the player list will appear in that drop-down menu, and you can just select them. So at this point, I mentioned you can add an injury for a player who hasn't already consented. So if you want to add an injury, that player hasn't previously consented, you can still add the injury, but at the time of adding it, you add player. This provides a box to add the player's name and their email. At this point, you add their name and their email. Check availability. It says the email is available. If that's the case, then you continue with those fields entered and carry on entering the injury. An email will be sent to that player to prompt them to fill out the consent form. So we select the match as well, and then go through details about the injury. So was the player removed at any point? Yes, they removed from the pitch. Was an ambulance used? No, it wasn't, so we keep no selected. Position being played at the time of injury, let's say they're a hooker. They've always been a hooker. Player at the time of the start of the match, most of the time they'll be a starter, but they may have come on as a replacement at any point. Time of the injury, which match quarter, we'll say it's the third quarter. And then were they wearing any protective equipment? So yeah, we'll say they're wearing a gum shield and a head guard. Was it a recurrent injury? You can select yes or no. If yes, number of weeks returned, we'll say no. Next page, more about the injury diagnosis. So the injury site, was the site supported? Not supported. The site of the injury, let's say this is a concussion, so it's a head. For a concussion, we don't mind if you input NA and NA for front, back, and side. So the type, we do actually have concussion now in the drop-down list as a diagnosis, so this can be selected. And then we also have the option to select a more detailed diagnosis from the full OSIX list. You can click to get the full list. And this is obviously a very detailed list of specific injuries, and each one has a 3-character code. If you're able to diagnose to that level and you have the code, then please do put it in this box here. It's a free text box. If you're unable to diagnose to that level, just entering the site and the type of injury is still okay. Any additional information then about the injury is really useful to us. For example, player went to hospital, had an X-ray. Or more details about how the injury occurred if it's not obvious, or about the diagnosis. So any information is welcome. So how the injury was sustained, let's say that here the player was tackled. There was not an injury relating to the injury. So finish those fields. And what treatment did the player receive at the time of the injury? So let's say they were seen to straight after the game or during the game by a sports therapist. We click yes. You can click more than one in these options. And then that finishes the data entry for this injury as it is. So as the person entering the information, you just sign to say yes, you're aware that this is being completed. And you're confirming the information is correct as you know it. So click yes to both, add a signature, and then you submit. So before I just go through the process of submitting, just to note you have edit one last chance. This is because all the information submitted so far in the form cannot be edited later on. So that information cannot be changed. There is an option to add some more information after, and I'll run through that next. So once you're happy, submit crisp injury, and then the injury is submitted. So I've been through the process there of how to add a player, add a match, and then add an injury. As I mentioned here, once an injury has been added, if you notice that we didn't add in a return to play date or any referred to treatment, this can be added later on. So if we go to the list of injuries, you can click on the player's name, and there you will see all of the information that was added about that injury. At the bottom here, when you have a return to play date, you know the player is fit. So this is the date when the player is fit to fully play. This date can be added. Set that as today. And then importantly, we have now a free text box to say if anything has changed. So if there's any update on the diagnosis, or anything you would like to say about the injury that you may have missed first time, such as how it occurred, any other treatment the player had, please write it in this box and then we can add it into the edits afterwards. And then there's also the option here then to add the referred to treatment. So if the player went to hospital, they saw a surgeon, a specialist, this can be added here. And then again, this can be resubmitted and the data is added in. That edit as well can be made at any point after the injury has been entered, so it can be re-edited. So hopefully that was a useful video on how to enter data. As I mentioned, it assumes you're able to log in successfully. If you have any issues with accessing the CRISP Proactive module or login, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. Thanks very much.